Alright guys, welcome back. So today we're back out at the range and we've got the Glock 19 and the SIG P320 compact. So what we're going to be doing today is a little comparison video, comparing these two guns together, going over some of their pros and cons, some of the differences, some of the similarities, just doing a little bit of shooting with them and all that. So let's get to it. All right, so to get things started off, what I want to do is I want to demonstrate how the recoil is on both of these pistols. With the Glock, it has that nice low bore axis that all of us have been, have known to love. And I'm going to shoot this one first, and then we'll switch to the P320, which has that higher bore axis that people talk about. I see a lot of people commenting saying they don't like the higher bore axis because it makes the pistol harder to control and all that stuff. But both of these pistols are 9mm, so the 9mm is not a real snappy round to begin with, so it shouldn't be an issue. But I'm going to show you guys each one of them. I'm going to shoot somewhat slow so you guys can kind of see how the recoil is. And we'll start with the Glock 19, we'll switch to the P320, and you guys can be the judge on, if there's any differences in the recoil management. So let's go ahead and start. I'll try to get the pistol in frame the best that I can, and you guys can, be the judge. So here we go. All right, so there is 15 rounds through the Glock 19. I'll go get the P320 and we'll do the same thing. All right, so P320 loaded up, got that higher bore axis, so let's see how it does. All right, so there's 15 rounds through the P320, and as far as feel goes, it didn't feel like it was jumping around, much more than the Glock, but I haven't seen the footage yet, so I really don't know, but you guys will be able to tell, and you can make the call. All right, so now let's take a closer look at both of these pistols and go over some of their features. As you can probably tell, that they're both very, very similar in size. If you put the guns right on top of each other, and both of these are safe and empty, but if you put them right on top of each other, you can see that the Glock 19 slide is going to be a little bit longer if you put it end to end, a little bit longer. And then if you look at the grips, if you try to line the beaver tails up, if I can get that in there, pretty close right there, you can see the P320 is a little bit longer in the grips. And as far as width goes, as you can see on the width, pretty similar in width. So as far as their actual dimensions go, they are pretty similar in size. Now, the one thing I guess that everybody talks about is the higher bore axis of the SIG. And as you can probably see, if we put the beaver tail side by side, if I can do that, you can probably see that the SIG does definitely have a little bit higher of a bore axis. But if you've seen them in action, if you've shot one yourself, and as you're probably going to see in this video, the little bit higher bore axis on the SIG really isn't that big of a deal, especially with this 9mm gun. Now, when you get up to the 40s and the 45s, I don't have any personal experience with those. Those might be a little bit different, but as far as these 9s go, it's not an issue. You're not going to have anything to worry about there. So moving on, as you can tell on the frames, the Glock is going to have those finger grooves that some people love, some people hate. I'm kind of indifferent about it. I don't know, I guess I would rather have them without it. When I don't have gloves on, I guess the finger grooves fit my hand pretty well. If I got gloves on, they're a little too, I don't know, they're just a little off when I have gloves on, but not too bad, I guess. Now the SIG, as you can see, does not have those finger grooves, so it doesn't matter gloves or not, you're not gonna have to worry about getting your fingers exactly in those finger grooves, and it might fit you know, more hands than the Glock 19. But overall, I guess the SIG, I would have to say, has a better feel to it overall than the Glock. Now I've got a lot more trigger time with the Glock 19, had one for a very long time, so the Glock feels very, very good to me. I'm a fan of the Glock grip angle. I know a lot of people are, a lot of people aren't. But as far as the grip angle goes, don't mind it on the Glocks. I've shot them long enough that I guess I'm just used to them, so I don't mind that grip angle. Now for the SIG is going to be like a lot of your other modern pistols. It's going to have that more vertical grip, not angled back like the Glock. And you know, I got to say I like that too. It's very comfortable like that as well. So I guess you're gonna have to pick your poison, which one you like better. Both of them feel good to me, but I guess the ergonomics of the SIG feel maybe a little bit better to me than the Glock 19, but either way, both of them feel good. You know, you can't complain with either one of them, at least in my opinion. Now, both of these pistols are fed from a 15-round double stack magazine, and as you can see, pretty similar in size. Both of them here, we got the SIG here and the Glock here. Now the Glock, you know, they're famously known for being very, very indestructible and reliable. You know, you got the steel on the inside, the polymer on the outside. They're just very well known for being very, very rugged and durable, reliable magazines. And then you've got the SIG mag here, which is an all steel construction, 15 rounds, just like I said. Now they do have two different ones. Like this one here is made in the US. I think Checkmate is what they're from. Then you also have the Metgar mags, which you know, you got mixed reviews out there. Most of them say that the US mags, you know, if you're going to have a problem with SIG, it's going to be from the US made mags. So far, I haven't had any issues. I've got both. One thing I did notice though between the two is the US mags, to get that 15th round in is very, very hard to get it in, whereas the Metgar made mags, the Italian made mags, the 15th round goes in pretty easy, but on these US made mags, a little bit trickier, you know, a little bit stiffer on the spring, I guess, but as far as functionality goes, they've both been 100%. Now, on the Glock, as most of you probably know, Glock has that proprietary rail here on the front. And normally when you hear proprietary, that usually means a bad thing because it's hard to find accessories, it's hard to find things that'll fit without using adapters or whatever. But with the Glocks, you know, as wildly popular as they are and how popular they've been for a very long time, you're not going to have any issues finding any accessories, lights, lasers, whatever to go on these guns because there's just so much stuff made for the Glock pistols. Like I said, being how popular they are with civilians and law enforcement and military and everything, just how popular they are, you're not going to have any issues finding anything. Now with the SIG, it's going to have a standard 1913 rail, so you're definitely not going to have any issues finding accessories for this. You know, anything that goes on a standard 1913 rail is, you know, you're going to be able to put on this gun. Now, as you can probably see, I've got an Apex flat trigger in this one, and if you watch my videos on it, if not, I got links down below if you want to see installs and things like that. But the Apex trigger, it is, you know, it doesn't change the weight, it doesn't change anything like that. All it does is change the actual physical trigger itself. It just makes it into a flat trigger instead of a curved trigger, and to me, you know, I think it's a lot better than the standard curved trigger. Now, if you've seen other videos I've done with this Glock 19, you've probably seen I had an Apex trigger in this one as well, but I actually don't have it in here right now. I've got the standard Glock trigger in it. I put the Apex one in my Glock 26 just to see how I would like it, to see if it was worth buying another one for that gun. So right now it's in that gun. I got the standard one in here. And you know, it works okay, but the Apex, having that flat face front, I really do like it better than the contoured curved trigger that the Glocks have. But either way, you know, both guns are going to work. All right, guys, so now what I want to do is show you guys the accuracy of both of these pistols, or at least the accuracy that I'm capable of doing with both of these pistols. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the camera around, put it on the target. Instead of having the camera on me, I'll just put it on the target so you guys can see where each round is going, and I'll just let you know which gun that I'm shooting. So let's test the accuracy. All right, so here we go. We're going to go first with the Glock 19. I'm going to shoot the target on the left, and I'm just going to shoot the whole magazine. I'll shoot 15 rounds. And you know, I'll go slow and you know, try to do the best group that I can. But let's go ahead and start with the Glock 19. So here we go. All right, so that is probably one of the worst groups I've ever shot with this gun. But if I didn't mention it, we're here at about 8 to 10 yards. And so there's 15 rounds with the Glock 19. Like I said, accuracy is much better than that. I'm having an off day, I guess, because that's a terrible group. But let's go ahead and switch to the p320 and see what we can do with it. All right, so we got the p320 loaded up. Again, we're at 8 to 10 yards, somewhere in there roughly. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna shoot all 15 rounds at the target on the right. So here we go. Okay, a little bit better group than the Glock 19, but like I said, both of these guns are capable of being much more accurate than that. You know, these are definitely not my best groups that I've ever had with these two guns, but definitely the p320 target probably looks a little bit better than the Glock 19. But as far as the accuracy goes between both of them, you're going to have about the same accuracy. They're both very accurate guns. They're more than capable of doing anything you need to. Now, if you step back to 100 plus yards or something like that, you know, you might get different results with it. But for a handgun, for a self-defense handgun or whatever, 25 yards and in, things like that, the guns are going to do exactly what you need to. All right, so I know I've already showed you guys the difference in the recoil management, how much the gun's going to flip. Just doing some slow-ish fire. So now what I want to do is I just want to dump a mag through each of them, you know, as fast as I can pull the trigger so you guys can see how the gun's going to react shooting really, really fast with the difference in the bore axis height. So we're going to start off with the Glock 19, and I'll try to get this, we're a little bit more zoomed in so you guys can see the pistol better. So, you know, hopefully this will give you an idea on how the gun's going to react when you shoot a little bit faster. So here we go with the Glock 19. So there's 15 rounds. Hopefully you guys could see how the pistol is controlled during faster fire, as fast as I can pull the trigger. So now let's switch up to the SIG P320 and do the same thing. All right, so SIG P320 loaded up 15 rounds just like the Glock 19. And again, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna shoot as fast as I can pull the trigger to show you guys how the pistol is controlled shooting really fast, or at least as fast as I can do it. So I'll try to make sure the pistol is in focus. And here we go. And again, there's 15 rounds this time through the SIG P320. And I won't be able to know, you know, how the difference is until I watch the footage, but as overall feel went, it didn't feel like this one was any harder to control than the Glock 19. But you guys are seeing the footage, so you guys be the judge on what you guys think. All right, guys, so now let's go over some of the pros and cons of both of these pistols. We'll start off with the Glock 19, and as most of you know, the Glock 19 is probably one of the most popular compact pistols out there. And because of that, and really Glocks in general, not even just this Glock 19, because these pistols are so popular with civilians and law enforcement, military, you name it, you can find just about any part that you need to for one of these pistols, whether you're just needing a factory replacement part like a spring or something like that, or if you want to go with aftermarket parts and fully deck this thing out, you can find the parts for these, you know, sights and triggers and extended this and extended that, and, you know, complete slides and barrels, threaded barrels, you name it, you can find parts for this gun. So if something goes wrong, something goes down on your pistol, you're not going to have any issues finding another part to get this thing back up and running, or making it just that competition or race gun that you've been wanting to do, or just a range gun that has super light triggers or whatever. You can do it to this pistol. So because of that, that's probably its biggest pro, I guess, in my opinion, the biggest pro. As far as negatives go, I guess for the Gen 3s, I guess a negative would be that the frame, it really kind of slick, doesn't have a whole lot of texture to it. You know, a lot of people go and stipple their frames, or if you like those Talon grips, you can get Talon grips to wrap around it. I did try out the rubber ones, and, you know, they did a decent job, but in my opinion, when your hands got sweaty and stuff, the rubber was, you know, pretty much just as slippery as, you know, the standard frame. So I ended up taking mine off. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people out there like the rubber, and then they also make a sandpaper one that you can put on, but I do carry this gun, so I didn't want the sandpaper finish, you know, next to my skin, tearing me up all day. So I guess the biggest con for me is going to be that the grip is a little on the slippery side. I guess I'm not a huge fan of the finger grooves. What I'd really like to do is I'd like to get my hands on a nice Gen 2, give that a try without the finger grooves, because, and I know a lot of you guys are going to say, well, just remove them. I've never been a big fan of stippling or doing something permanent to my pistols. Just a personal preference. I know a lot of you guys out there do it, but I'm just not a big fan of it. Don't feel comfortable in grinding or stippling or cutting or anything like that on my pistols. Just a personal preference thing. So I guess those are going to be my cons for the Glock 19. You know, those two things there. So let's switch over to the p320 and go over some of its pros and cons. Now, I guess the biggest pro right off the bat is going to be the modularity of this pistol. You know, you can change frame sizes, frame colors, frame widths. You can change complete calibers and everything with just one pistol. You don't have to buy new pistols to get the new stuff that you want. And I'm not going to take this gun apart. I already have videos on it. If you want to see how it comes apart and what I'm actually talking about, I'll link videos down below, you know, where I change the frame out and things like that. But the actual firearm, the actual serial numbered part, is just the internals of this gun. I don't know how well you can see that right there, but that serial number is not on the frame or anything, it's on the guts of the gun. So all you gotta do is pop a pin out, take the guts out, and you can change, like I said, frame sizes, calibers, you know, go with a full-size gun, with a subcompact gun. So that is very cool that you can do that. You have a lot of options, like I said, a lot of modularity with this pistol, and, you know, I think that is a huge pro for the SIG P320. Another thing is the ergonomics. I think that's a huge pro on the SIG P320. It just feels very good in your hand. It just feels very natural, has a very comfortable feel to it. And unlike the Glock, this one does not have finger grooves, and I really do like that. But like I said, with the Glock, with no gloves on, the finger grooves feel just fine. But if I put gloves on, especially thicker winter gloves, the finger grooves just don't fit my fingers anymore, and I kind of fumble around with getting a good grip on it. But like with this P320, with no finger grooves, I do like that much better. You don't have to worry about finger sizes, gloves, whatever. They're just not there to worry about. And then now while we're talking about the grip, I hope that'll focus good enough to where you can see it. This grip actually does have some pretty good, like a stippling design on it. If you've ever felt the E2 grips that like the P series, like P226, 229 come with, it has that same type of texture to it. Not super aggressive to where it's going to tear you up, but it does give a good solid traction in your hand, so that's definitely a plus. I guess some of the negatives I could say about the pistol, maybe, I guess it does have that slightly higher bore axis. And this pistol is safe and empty. I know I'm pointing it in all different directions, but this is safe and empty. It does have that little bit higher of a bore axis. Now that it doesn't have the hammer in it, I guess they could have made a lower bore axis, but like I demonstrated in the video, not a huge deal. The gun is still very controllable, just like the Glock with that super low bore axis, so I don't think that's going to be an issue, but I guess that could be sort of a con. And I guess another con is going to be like the cost of the magazines. The SIG magazines, these 15-round magazines, cost around $40, probably at their cheapest, 40 bucks. That's a little bit high, I guess, for magazines like the Glock mags. You can find them for 30, sometimes less. So you're going to pay about $10 to $15 more per magazine for the p320 mags, and that's for the 15-round magazines. I haven't bought any of the others, but I think they're all the same price, no matter what the size is. So that's definitely a con. Things are a little bit more expensive for it, I guess, as far as magazines go. And then, you know, unlike the Glock, you can find parts for it anywhere, any type of parts you want. For the SIG, there's not a whole lot of stuff you can change out as far as little parts. You know, I haven't seen any extended this or extended that for it. You know, you can change the trigger shoe like I did here with this Apex, and I think that is a great upgrade for it. But as far as like springs and stuff, I haven't seen any come out to like lighten the trigger or do this or do that, you know, like the Glock. So I guess another con would be not a whole lot of aftermarket you know, parts availability for it just yet, and it's still, you know, a fairly new pistol. It hasn't been out super long, so I'm sure, you know, as time goes on, more companies are going to come out with ways to make some upgraded parts for it and things like that. So you know, and as far as cost goes between the two pistols, as far as buying them, they're pretty close in price. I think the Glock is going to come in maybe a tad cheaper. You can find the Gen 3s like I got there around the $500 mark. And if you search around, you could probably find a p320 compact for around that price. I paid a little bit more, around the $525-ish range, I do believe. But that's, you know, at least in my area in Indiana, you know, prices may vary in other parts of the country, but that, as far as around here where I'm at, about $500 for the Gen 3 Glocks, about $525 or so for the p320 compact. So, you know, pretty close in price. So overall, guys, you know, as far as which one is the winner, you know, you're not going to go wrong with either one of them. If you buy the p320, you're going to have an excellent gun. If you go with the Glock, you're going to have an excellent gun. I guess you're just going to need to get out and shoot them, or at least go to a gun shop, pick both of them up, and see how they feel to you in your hand, see which one feels more comfortable to you, and then get out to the range. Or if you have a range where you can rent the guns, that'd be the ideal thing. Or if you have a buddy who owns both of them, try them out, see which one you like better, see which one you can shoot better and all that, and then make your decision off of that, because you're not going to go wrong with either one of them. But anyhow, guys, that's going to wrap up this video comparing the SIG p320 compact with the Glock 19. Both excellent pistols. Both of them have their pros and cons. You're just going to have to weigh each one of them out, see which one works best for you, you know, see which pros outweigh which cons, and then make your decision from that. Both great pistols. You can't go wrong with either one of them. If you own either one of these pistols and you'd like to share some comments on your opinions, leave it down below in the comments. If you have any other questions or comments about anything you've seen here in the video or anything else you've seen here on the channel, leave those down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. But anyhow, guys, I appreciate everybody watching. I appreciate everybody subscribing, and we'll catch you in the next one.